Everybody, welcome back to the vlog. So for today's practice, we have something unique that I'm going to be doing. I've mentioned in some videos before that when you're on a tough tournament condition, if urethane's in play, you should definitely be using urethane because you can usually score a lot better with urethane. Missing with urethane is usually a lot less of a penalty than if you miss with reactives. So the reason I am going to be doing something special today is because in the last couple tournaments I've bowled, there was plenty of people around me who definitely were using urethane. More recently at the Meritage Open, the guy who won the tournament, I qualified next to him pretty much all day Saturday. He was using urethane, and for the most part, he was making it work pretty well. I mean, he won the tournament, for crying out loud. So I don't know if he threw it in the match play or not, but at least as far as qualifying is concerned, he used it. For good reason. It was a really tough condition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my urethane ball. It's all I brought with me today, my urethane and my plastic. I'm going to take it inside and I am going to practice throwing urethane. There is a sport condition out on the lanes here today. I don't know what kind of sport condition it is, so of course I'll go through my process to figure out where the friction is at, and then I am going to do my best to make a urethane ball work on the condition. For those of you who are unfamiliar with a urethane ball, urethane balls hook the soonest out of any other type of equipment that is currently available. The type of cover stock that they have, they have a tendency to grip the lane early, and that's what gives them the nice smooth shape off the back of the pattern. So in most cases, urethane can definitely be used. It's just a matter of having it in the proper area of the lane, and of course rolling it the proper way to basically get that reaction to shape the correct way and carry the pocket when it hits. So yeah, this should be pretty exciting. I'm going to get my stuff inside. I'll see you guys in a little bit. Alright guys, so to get started, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take my urethane ball, I'm going to sand it down to 500 grit. Now the reason I'm doing this is because I want the ball to tell me exactly where the friction of the lane is at. So I'm going to use 500 grit. It's more of a traction surface. I'm going to start by throwing it up the outside board of 5, see if it'll even skid or if it's just going to hook right away. And then if I see it hook, I'll move into the 10 board and throw it up 10 and see it again if I get any skid or if it starts to hook right away, and I'll do that same process at 15. What I'm looking for here is I'm looking for a little bit of oil that's going to allow a 500 grit ball to get a little bit of length through the heads. So if you see there in those shots I was throwing at 500 grit, it wouldn't really skid at all out on the 5 board. It basically hooked right away and rolled straight to the pocket. Now obviously that's not going to be a ball motion that you can live with for a very long time, so I moved into 10, tried the same thing, got a little bit of skid, but it still hooked pretty quick and basically rolled straight. So once I moved into 15, I noticed that's where I started to get a little bit of push out of the ball. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take that ball up to 1000 grit and we're going to try playing right around the 15 board at the arrows. I'm going to send it out to about 10 because it looks like the track area is playable. So we're going to do 1000 grit, aim 15 out to 10 and kind of see what shape we get. right, so after those shots that I threw, you can notice that the ball is still trying to hook a little too early. I did move left, and I kept trying to get it out to the 10 board at the break point, and it still was crossing over the head pin. So I'm going to take the ball up to 2,000 grit now, and I think that's going to be kind of a good medium surface to use on this ball on this particular pattern. I'm going to stand where I think I should stand. I'm going to hit it out to about 8 at the arrow, or not at the arrows. I'm going to hit 8 at the break point, and we'll see what kind of game we can throw for score. Alright, so I've thrown a few shots, you know, pretty good looking. I'm standing about 30 on the approach, aiming roughly 16, 15 at the arrows, getting it out to about 8, and I've got a pretty decent motion. What I really like about this urethane is it's reading the pattern extremely well. So what I'm expecting from this ball is when the pattern starts to change a little bit, this ball is going to tell me right away what that change is. And I should be able to see it pretty clearly. It's a solid color ball. So yeah. Going to keep going, and we'll see what we can put on the scoreboard. All right, so we threw a pretty good game there. 247 isn't bad at all, especially with the urethane ball. I mean, I'm standing at the end of the game there. I actually moved to about 33 with my feet and look in 17 at the arrows, getting it out to about that 8 to 10 board area. And at that point, you know, the urethane ball was still turning the corner hard enough to carry a strike. What I noticed about the urethane, which I really, really like, is if I missed a little bit at the bottom, chances are I would still get the ball to the pocket. Whether or not it carried, well, that's another story. But at least it was leaving me makeable spares. The other thing is if I got around it a little bit, the ball still allowed me to get the ball to the pocket and not have to pay a huge penalty for, you know, a minor issue on my shot. So I really like that. The last thing I noticed is at the end of the game there, as I threw those last 3 strikes, in the 6th, 7th, and 8th frame, I noticed that the ball was starting to kind of pick up the mid lane a little bit harder, and you could actually see the motion of that ball start a little bit sooner. So that's what made me move from 30 to 33. And once I got it to that area, I got a little bit more push out of the ball, and that's where it started to, you know, kind of turn the corner a little weak. So going into the next game, I'm going to switch to the only reactive ball I brought with me. It's my Big Bro Jack that I recently had re-drilled. I haven't done anything to the ball surface. It's out of box at 3,000 grit, and what I'm going to do is just kind of see what kind of shape this ball gives me. You know, I'm not perfect, so I'll probably make a few mistakes here and there, and I want to see what the difference is between this ball when I make a mistake versus my urethane ball. so we threw a 208. That's not a terrible game, but you'll notice during those shots that whenever I made a minor mistake with my release, it made a big difference on that ball. Now, it's at 3,000 grit, so the ball's already at a surface that isn't going to read the lane exceptionally well, but it was good enough to allow it to turn the corner and carry strikes. But if I happened to get around the ball a little bit, it made the biggest difference in the world. I mean, you know, it of course made the ball push a lot farther down the lane, and it wouldn't recover and get back to the pocket nearly as well as the urethane did, which kind of shocked me. The other thing I noticed is I was unable to miss really more or less than a board with the reactive ball. If I missed a board right, it was light to the pocket and maybe I'd get a strike, maybe I wouldn't. If I missed a board in, it would just basically hydroplane, and once it got to the break point, it didn't want to turn the corner. So, you know, I think that's the biggest difference between the urethane versus the reactive. Obviously the urethane gives you better ability to make a mistake and not have a maximum penalty for it. Luckily enough, in that game for the reactive ball, I didn't really have any humongous mistakes that I couldn't spare. It was a clean game through and through, so I'm happy with that. But it's really kind of eye-opening to see the difference in motion between urethane and reactive. And going forward, I think urethane is going to be my go-to ball in warm-ups, especially because at 500 grit, it really grips the lane well, really tells me what the pattern's giving me. All right, guys, thanks for joining me for today's practice. So as you can see there, the urethane ball definitely gave me more miss room. You know, it gave me the ability to miss a little bit right and left, and it even gave me the ability to miss the release a little bit, you know, because if I got around it, it would still read the pattern and usually make it back to the pocket pretty well. And then if I got up the back of it, that's of course when it ripped the pattern really well. So I really like that shape, and it's kind of surprising to me. You know, I've used urethane before. It's just not a ball that I have a tendency to use a lot. But going forward, I think for tournaments where I know the format is extremely difficult, and even tournaments where I know the format maybe isn't extremely difficult, I think the urethane is going to be the first ball out of my bag every single time. Simply because if I can use it and I can score with it, why would I not? You know, gives you that miss room, that freedom of error, and that goes a long ways in shooting big scores. So thanks for watching, guys. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the video, and I will see you guys in the next one.